What's happening, everyone? Just driving home after, the sun started shining now, but dreary, rainy day at work here in Charleston. It's a little bit unseasonably cold today, thus the little bit of bundling. Guess I'm shaking my northern roots a little bit here, and 45 degrees feels kind of cold to me these days. But not complaining, and definitely not blaming anybody or anything for the weather. It just is. So made a post this morning that sparked some interesting debates in some places that I make my morning posts at, and one of the comments was really interesting. And with my post this morning, it said you're not required to blame anything. And while this might seem like, hey, don't blame anything, we oftentimes tend to want to assign blame for things, or assign a fault, or give a reason for things not happening the way that we want them to. So we have to assign a blame or assign a fault to that circumstance. So the response to that, or one of the responses to that, was that, hey, you have to sometimes assign blame to find a root cause. And it was a really interesting point, and I wanted to kind of riff on that a little bit here, because it is a very, very important distinction that you have to make. And where I draw the line between a root cause versus blame is the deflection or lack thereof of responsibility. Because a root cause doesn't necessarily assign responsibility to somebody or something. Whereas blame, to me, I define that as you are trying to assign an external, or assign a cause to an external force other than yourself. And when you assign blame, you're deflecting any sort of responsibility that you might have for a particular result or a particular circumstance. And when you blame somebody or something, you are actually acknowledging the fact that you saw something and didn't do anything about it. Whereas a root cause, in engineering, we have something called relentless root cause analysis, where you use tools such as the 5 Whys, Fishbone or Ishikawa diagrams, some more common quality tools. But it takes, those tools take the personality out of the equation, whereas you are just looking for, okay, X action happened and Y results. There was a particular result that happened, and it doesn't assign responsibility. It just says, here is the cause of the problem. And we definitely need to find those causes of our problems and root them out relentlessly. Whereas blame, it does nothing but try to shift responsibilities, shuffle responsibilities from person to person. And that does nothing to solve the problem. Blaming does not solve problems. Isn't external blame an aversion for internal shame? Yeah, you can, because what you're doing is you're trying to deflect any sort of responsibility or any culpability you might have on the situation at hand from yourself. You're trying to say, I had nothing to do with this. It was the fact that it was raining today, or this person didn't take the trash out. Well, you're just as responsible for taking the trash out as somebody else. You're perfectly capable of doing that. So you're just trying to, like Gerald said, shield yourself from any sort of shame for not taking an action that you probably knew that you were perfectly capable of doing. Whether it was your responsibility or somebody else's responsibility, the sheer fact that you observed the situation and did nothing about it points responsibility to you because you could have done something about it. Whether that person simply didn't do it because that was ultimately their responsibility or not. I know I'm starting to ramble here, but my point here is that we need to have a clear distinction between finding a root cause versus assigning blame. Now, once you find a root cause and you've removed the personal piece of the puzzle from the equation, then you can objectively start to formulate a remediation plan of how this will be corrected. And when you do that, you don't start saying, okay, well, this was, now that you've drilled down to the root cause, you don't start then assigning blame. You as a leader, and I'm going to take this, I'm going to take a position of leadership on this topic. For me, like, hey, we start going around the room and saying, hey, what could each of us have done to prevent this situation? And then it comes from me, like when you're analyzing a situation, like the blame doesn't get assigned. Everybody takes responsibility for that situation or whatever circumstance happened because of not taking or not properly taking action. So I hope this makes sense to everybody. I'm just kind of riffing on this topic as we go along here, and that's where I kind of want to leave things for tonight. I'd be curious to hear other people's perspectives on this distinction, root cause versus blame. And if the more we can drill down and find a root cause, and then we all kind of huddle around this cause. It's kind of like a little campfire. Treat it like a campfire, and then we all sit around, trade stories about it, say, hey, I saw that the trash was getting full, but I just walked by it, even though I could have lended Stevie a hand, because I know it's his responsibility to take the trash out, and he's got to take everybody's trash out, or whatever the situation is. You personally acknowledge and take ownership of your piece of the puzzle, and then that opens the door for a conversation with the rest of the group to acknowledge and take ownership of their piece of the puzzle, what they could do better, because then that's how you build effective teams. All right, guys, that's where I'm going to leave this. Appreciate Taylor, Gerald, Extra Mom, Kyle, anybody else here. I'm driving, so I'm not going to try and see who's stopping by. See Drew there as well. Appreciate everybody stopping by. Let me know that you caught it. Give me some thumbs ups. Share this if you know someone who needs to hear this message. Appreciate sharing with them or sharing it on your wall yourself. And if you're catching the replay, let me know you caught the replay. And tonight we are kicking off, or last night, we kicked off our discipline deep dive course. Still have some time if you want to jump in late on that. Just go to KennyandZiska.com/DDD, or just send me a direct message here on Facebook. Easy to get a hold of, and we'll get you rolling. All right, guys, thanks a lot, and I will chat with you later.